Hello and welcome to a special edition of This Week in Production. I don't know if you will recall this, Tom, but today is Wednesday. And way back, we did a little series called Workflow Wednesdays.
Workflow Wednesdays. I don't recall, but is this an April Fool's joke or what?
No, it is not. It is unfortunately true. We did a couple of Workflow Wednesdays. We did one about drones with Mr. Joe Diacchino. We did one with
Oh, yeah.
Imagine Products, and
Hmm.
that was about the extent of Workflow Wednesdays. But it was an idea, and I
Yep.
made a graphic, and I said, you know what, this is a special episode of TWIP, so we're going to call it
Awesome.
Workflow Wednesday.
Excellent. Excellent. And what a workflow to highlight.
We are going to talk about the soup to nuts production that is known as Iditarod 54, at least from our standpoint. There's multiple
Right.
layers of Iditarod 54 production. We're going to talk about the live streaming component, and we're going to go soup to nuts.
All right. Let's start with the soup and then we'll go nuts.
Yes. This is year 19 for me, and I
Hmm.
think year 13 for you. Is that correct?
12.
12.
12 for me. Yeah.
Okay.
I had one where we were off on another gig uh, but
Yeah.
yeah, happy 12 and unbelievable that it's been that.
So the way that the gig works is it's broken down into I define them as like these different little venues or these different little assignments that we have to manage. Starting with the bib drawing banquet on Thursday. That's our first real production. It's a 3 hour live multicam switch, followed by the ceremonial start on Saturday, which is our first sort of go around with the crew and the gear for real. Then we have the official start, which is on Sunday. So we have those three productions, which basically take place in and around the Anchorage area.
Right.
Then the race starts, and that's when we shift from live multicam production to live streaming of trail cameras. And you're
Right.
part of one of three live streaming crews that go out across the Iditarod Trail, which is, through the middle of Alaska. And there's a camera and an encoder and a Starlink satellite, and each crew maybe has a different talent. You're with the producer and the race analyst most of the time, and then there's
Right.
a camera that's with a reporter, and then there's sort of another kit that's the reporter is the camera person, and he sort of does his own commentary, and those are what runs mostly during the race itself.
Gives the subscribers a chance to look in as the race is progressing, checkpoint to checkpoint as we can get there.
Right. And all of those cameras are basically streamed simultaneously whenever they're alive. There's a multi box video viewer on the website. We used to, in the old days, we used to curate those streams where we'd only have one video box, and
Right.
I would have to run sort of a master control and basically switch to whatever was happening. If there was a musher coming in at one checkpoint, we would switch to that checkpoint. Or if there was
Right.
a stand up to be done or a live interview or something, it would have to be switched. And it required, basically 24-hour manning of the control room, which
Right.
was not really budgeted for. And we've tried it a
And
whole
tough
bunch
to
of
do.
different
Yeah.
ways. Yeah, it's very hard to do. It's impossible for one person to do. And I used to do it
Right.
by myself. We tried one year with you doing half the shift. I think that was during
Right.
COVID. We tried that.
Yes.
And that was better. Believe me, it was better because I could get a little bit of sleep. It was easier to manage if we just put all the cameras up all the time and let the viewers decide what they want to watch.
It gave them what they wanted. It gave them the ability. So it was something that made our work in the field at the time a lot easier, but it also gave them the power to say, oh my goodness, I can watch what's going on in Koyuk. I can watch what's going on in White Mountain. I can listen to Sean talk about, the mushers that are coming through. It really put a lot of power in the viewer's hand. And I think that was a fringe benefit that was like a happy surprise.
it is, and it was, and I think there's still a place for maybe a curated stream somewhere in the future. I think it does help certain viewers to follow the race a little easier, but a lot of the
Right.
fans like the the multi-camera live streaming simultaneously aspect of it. So that's basically like the middle of the race. For you, you're out on the trail. I'm usually flying back to New York and getting set up for the next remote production, which is the champion finish, and that
Right.
happens in Nome, Alaska, the Bering Sea, one of the northernmost parts of western Alaska. And the champ will come in, and we'll have a multicam switch show. It originates in Nome. It's basically fed over IP. All the cameras are fed IP to me in New
Back to
York,
you. Right.
and we do that. We're going to get into the details of how we do that, and then we have the how the live stream really started, which is the finisher cameras. The finisher cameras hang on the arch, and they stream basically from the time the champ comes across till the red lantern, which is the last musher to finish. Those cameras are running 24/7 to show everybody all the finishers coming across the line. And
Right.
that was how the Iditarod Insider live stream started, was with just those two cameras, and we've grown it to quite a big deal right now.
Yeah.
And the last piece of business in Alaska is the finisher banquet.
Right.
It is also a multi-camera production.
That's grown too
It has,
over the last few years.
it
Yeah.
has, and we've tried that a few different ways. We've tried it doing remotely, sending feeds back to New York. We've tried it, being produced on site, and I
Right.
think there's always a challenge of bandwidth in Alaska in general. It's gotten better over the years, but that production this year was done on site, where you
Mhm.
basically did the producing, directing, switching, TDing, and camera fixing all at one shot.
Whole lot to be done on site. And I think going through your introduction of what our production role is, it just goes back to my memory of it really is not a lot of time that we have from the day we land in Anchorage to get that many different multi-camera productions set up and ready to go. It's quite an undertaking for a small group of people to do.
Well, that's the thing I think that goes sometimes by the wayside, is that this entire, not even this entire list, the seven venues and or the seven items that I listed, we produce. But in the past, they used to have a local TV station do it. The local TV station would charge about $100,000, and they would only do three of the seven shows. They would
Right.
do the C start, the restart, and the finish, and that was about 100 grand. And we're doing it for a fraction of that price, and we only have three people, sometimes four.
Right.
This year we had a
Adding.
fourth, but basically
Yeah.
it's me, you, and Brandon
Right.
to do all of that work. And so the mission is not necessarily to replicate broadcast, because I mean, we do the best we can do, and we do some pretty cool stuff, but
Yeah.
we're working on a limited budget and limited resources, and
Resources.
the job is basically to cover the event and give the viewers the finish in the best way that we can.
Right.
So that's where it gets a little wrinkly, because I know people in the world, when we look at it and say, oh well, that's kind of a you know low end whatever production, or you have all these complications, and sometimes
Right.
that's true. We try to have no complications, but we're limited. We're limited on many items, including
Right.
prep, equipment, redundancy, and resources. So
And I think people have become a lot more forgiving knowing, what we have out there. And I think the advent and progression of the availability of Starlink out there has really been able to give us what we've been lacking in the past. It's just giving us clean, secure connections to be able to stream without much worry. And that's been something that, when you think about it, is impossible out in the field,
yeah,
in the outback, in the bush of Alaska.
yeah,
So that's been a something, great to be able to provide.
true. True. So let's go through a little bit on the camera side of what we're using to produce the shows. Basically, we have some Panasonic CX350 cameras. Th-
Mhm.
Three of them go out on the trail with the three live crews. One is my personal 350 camera that we use for the banquet, the sea start, and the
Restart.
restart, and the finish. We have a two PX270, which is an older P2 camera. Again, my personal camera that is in the mix. And this is just to, we've had problems in the past where we were only using the three cameras that were going out on the trail. We used to only use those three cameras. And of course, when time comes for those crew members to leave to fly out to the trail, doesn't matter if we're still using the camera or not, they have to go.
Right,
So
right.
we
Part of it's
separated.
schedule, part of it is, yeah, the rentals
Is
of them. Yeah,
Yes, logistics. So we've
right.
tried to separate out some of the pieces. So we basically have three cameras that belong to my inventory, and then we have three rental cameras. The fourth camera that I have is an iPhone 16 Pro, and it's been something that is been a bonus, I think,
It's a real good
just in
bonus.
terms of logistics, portability, and then quality and flexibility. As a live streaming camera, it's been quite remarkable.
Yeah, especially with that Black Magic rig, which gave us the ability to keep it powered in extremely low temperatures. You know, something that a phone would never work for.
Yeah, and we'll talk about some of those specifics. In Nome at the Arch, we have these IATA POV cameras. They're IP67 rated. They go through a fiber chain that we'll talk about. I also have some Marshall POV cameras, very similar. The IATA cameras are HDMI for one reason, because the HDMI variant of that camera allows for analog audio input at the
Right,
camera head to be embedded in the HDMI signal, which is very important because we need to
yes,
have backup shotgun mics on the cameras to feed audio in case we lose the public address, which we have lost many, many times.
we have. We've kind of gotten that down, and a lot of that is just infrastructure on the ground in Nome.
Yep.
And they've updated it, and it's been reliable the last couple of years.
Yep. So we have the HDMI POVs that hang on the arch. We've got a pair of Marshall SDI POV cameras that we use at the banquet. And again, the reason we have both sets is that sometimes the banquet is happening while the Red Lantern is still on the course. And again, we're trying to just protect ourselves, make sure we
Right,
have enough cameras to, if we have to be live
covered.
on multiple venues, that we can. And they're small, they're lightweight, and it usually works out.
Yep.
This year, we had a couple of extra cameras, iPhone 14s that were purchased, used to send with the snow machine crews.
Right,
And we did something special there where we set them up with a simple live camera. They could get out to a really remote part of the trail where we normally don't have any live picture with a
right.
Starlink Mini and a special battery case, and they could stream live. So we had those uh, two extra cameras for the two snow machine crews. And then this year we had your brand new Mavic 4 Pro.
Right. And
And
key to that was the upgraded remote control for it.
right, we had been using a Mavic 3 with the smart remote or whatever they called the previous remote
Right.
because it had HDMI out, and we learned after very poor performance from the streaming function of the remote controller itself that it's much easier to take a
Yeah.
baseband
Direct line.
HDMI, we feed it into the encoder, we stream it back to New York on a SRT signal, or we feed it right into the production switcher on a cable, and that worked great.
Yeah. The drone this year was really a game changer to be able to show those views, and especially the expanded battery time on the Mavic 4. I was getting 35 minutes per battery. So for the duration of the start and the restart, it was crazy.
Yep. Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit about the sort of the nuts and bolts, the stuff sort of behind the scenes. Doesn't
Okay.
always get all the glory, but it's really the glue that makes all of this work. Um, the encoders and the routers that we use, the video encoding and the video routing, is all handled by these Intinor devices. Intinor is a
Mhm.
company based in Sweden. I saw them on a like a virtual NAB during COVID. I
Right.
saw their workflow and their capabilities. And so, oh, this sounds like something that I could fit into my production, especially with live streaming and things like that. And it's really been a great relationship I've had with them, and their products just work amazing. And so we use
And their
their
support for features, things that you've needed on the trail, they have been so responsive.
yeah, great all around support, great product. So we use basically two what they call routers. Routers are ingest points and transmit points um, that we use. One is in Nome, well, one goes to Alaska, one stays in New York.
Right.
And in Alaska, we use it as a ingest or sometimes a capture card. We'll
Yep.
talk about that in a minute. And otherwise, it's used to transmit the cameras individually back to me in New York. The on the trail, when you guys go out on the trail with the trail cameras, we send 3 Intinor field encoders or mobile encoders, and those
Right.
basically take an SDI feed from the CX350 or HDMI. Works both ways, and it
Right. They take a
encodes.
number of inputs.
Yep,
Yeah.
yeah, and it encodes it. It sends it to wherever I need it to go, to the website or to me in New York, and that's the glue. That's like really the glue that makes all of this run.
Right.
And I was thinking about this because 2 years ago, we had a lot of problems in the field with the
Right.
encoders because I mistakenly said, let me try to slim down the kit with these other brands of small encoders
Lighten it up. Yeah.
from Magewell and Killaview. And unfortunately, I didn't realize how important remote control of the encoders was.
Right.
I thought it would be simple enough that if it had internet and it would just start streaming that everything would be fine, and it turned out to be a disaster. It was
It
a
was.
just absolute nightmare. And there's nothing worse than being in your bed sleeping. And I know you don't get to do this, but I do get to do it sometimes. You're dead asleep, and then I get a call from you or from Brett or one of the other camera people
Right.
and say, we're not live on the website. Can you help?
What's
and
going on?
and without the Intinors, I really had no ability to get into the encoders to see what was going on.
No, they weren't robust enough. It was the entry was difficult to get to. You needed to really know computers a lot better. And just for you to be able to access the Intinors like you have been, you can troubleshoot immediately. There's a lot of two-way information flow, so you can make decisions real quickly to get them going. And it just wasn't possible with those other encoders.
Right. So I learned my lesson, and I this year I said, okay, the Intinor mobile
They're going
encoders
back
are
out.
going back out on the trail. And again, it was seamless. It was beautiful. And I'll just
It
give you
was.
one quick little example of how easy it makes the production go. So one of the camera operators had plugged the camera in to the second SDI input on the Intinor, and it's set up to listen to one of the ports. And he was not getting a feed, and I could just very simply go into the web interface of the encoder. I could see he was feeding signal into two, and not one, and that's why he wasn't getting a stream out. And I could have just switched it right there to be SDI2, but we had already instructed him to use SDI1. He was a little sleep deprived and he forgot.
Well, he wasn't
Or
the only one because I did the same thing out there at one point when I was setting up. So
right, but the ability to basically go there and see, oh yes, you've jacked it into the wrong cable. Just switch the port, or let me
yeah,
switch it for you, is so valuable. So valuable just to be able to see that. And I'm telling you, Tom, it works brilliantly. So it's a sleep saver on the Iditarod Trail.
Absolutely. And I will tell you too that, it's robust. It doesn't look it. It's the size of say a small shoebox, but it is resilient. Those things take a beating in these Pelican Airs that we use because we're putting, you know, contractor bags in there to cover up snow. We're putting accessories in there. We're putting pieces of tripods and elements that need to be able to be packed in quickly when you're going to the next checkpoint. And they have, without fail, been so resilient, and reliable.
Yeah. So some of the other pieces that we use, I have a MacBook Pro M3 Max. I think you have the same.
Yep.
Those are used to run our favorite software for doing video switching, which is Mimo Live.
Mm-hmm.
That handles so much of the switching and production for us. This year, we also had two nice little pieces of software, really three. I call them little
Okay.
problem solvers. One was the Larix Broadcaster.
Yes.
That goes on the iPhone. It lets you generate an SRT stream. It could be either H.264 or H.265. Really easy to use. They have a little remote function, so I could actually control the phones remotely if the
Once you're
operator
connected.
puts it into remote control. So those worked pretty good. I used another little piece of software that's in beta. It's called Just Mini Server. It's a weird name,
Right.
but I think it's just because it's in beta. This company makes a few other pieces of software for both Mac and Windows. One is a program called RTMP Mini Server. The other is an SRT Mini Server for Windows only. This beta for the Mac is called Just Mini Server, but it is basically lets you take SRT across your local network and stream it, point to point. And without it, I wouldn't be able to use the iPhone in some of the productions.
It was huge. And your level of being able to find little backdoors and little routes for signals to go is still sometimes confounds me. But that's why you do what you do, and it
But
always
just
works seamlessly.
just little pieces of kit that help you do what you need to do. And
Right.
the quality of the SRT stream from the iPhone over Wi-Fi, over our production Wi-Fi, really good. Um, Obviously, there's some problems with latency between the baseband
Right.
signals and the SRT, and we try to minimize that by not, putting the SRT iPhone rig in a place where it needs to have matching sync with everything else.
Right. I mean, case in point, this year was great at the actual mushroom banquet at the end in Nome. It was your idea to switch it out. We thought it would be more convenient for a close-up shot. You were like, no, I think the latency is not going to be there, and so it became a wide go-to camera from up high, which gave us the flexibility when we wanted to get crowd coverage to be able to get faces and then be able to go to a high wide shot when we're chasing other faces on the other cameras. So it just became a nice little tool where the latency, like you said, didn't matter.
Right, and also because it was wireless, it was a
Mhm.
very easy setup. We didn't have to worry about running a cable or using an extra encoder just to
I mean,
send wireless.
a shout out to the Wavelink setup too, because
Yeah,
that's been,
yeah.
a great source for being able to extend Wi-Fi.
The Wavelink is a Wi-Fi hotspot that I found on Amazon. It's got big antennas for 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, and it basically takes PoE, plug in your internet to it, and then it'll generate a very long range Wi-Fi hotspot, which has been great. The Netgear AV switches are in
Mhm.
my rack. They make everything really easy to route NDI around. And then the other little piece that I like that doesn't always get a lot of love is the Unity intercom.
Yeah.
The Unity intercom is running on a M1 Mac Mini in my office in New York. We use it for all of my productions.
Mhm.
It's a pretty bulletproof intercom system. The latency is very low,
Very low. Yeah.
and it just is so flexible. People can use it on a Windows or Mac or Android or iPhone, and it's just a nice way to communicate and have everyone have access.
Right. I mean, they have a watch app so you can push to talk using your watch. I mean, it's very, very flexible to be able
Yep.
to use it in lots of scenarios.
So I'm just going to go through some of the venue logistics. Again, part of this is to educate people if they're curious about how we're doing things that we do. But part of it is so that you and I can remember next year about the things that went wrong and what we have to do to fix them.
Let's go back. Yeah.
Yes. So Thursday's banquet, the bib draw banquet, we basically used a 350 and a 270 at the back of the room.
Yeah.
One is a close up, one is basically a wide cover shot of the stage. We have a rental camera, a Sony ENG. I don't remember the model number of the Sonys. Do you?
That's the 450 ENG camera.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember the letters that precede it. But
yep, the Sony shoulder-mounted 450 camera. Basically, we just used that as a handheld with a Vaxis attached to the back of it. That worked really solidly. We also had the iPhone 16 there as well because we had an extra body that could run a camera for us. And that actually worked really well, again, except for some of the latency issues, which I think if
it was
we
a
had
little bit
more,
shorter in the room, right? A little bit shorter latency in the room.
a little bit less, but it's still about,
Yeah.
2.5 seconds of latency,
Right.
even on Wi-Fi. So you have to be able to, time that out a little bit more. We could put delay in the other cameras, I guess. And that was, again, using the Larix broadcaster app.
Right.
But we did run into one problem there that we need to really address, because basically
Audio.
we take all of the cameras into a Decklink capture card. They all come in, 4 cameras come in there, plus we have your computer doing graphics. We get audio from the house, the
Video
house
playback too.
Yeah. The house vendor. Yeah, you're doing video playback, but we get audio from the house. And then we have your audio from the video packages that get rolled in. And I brought 2 audio interfaces. One basically to bring in the board feed from the house to me. And then I had a second interface to send like a mix minus or something back to house.
Oh.
So they would hear packages, right? They have to hear the playback packages that you're running on your laptop. And we've had really no problems doing that in the past. But I think this year the editor who had prepped the packages laid the tracks out differently. They laid them out. Yeah. They laid them out split track with like an ounce on one and music on 2 instead of dual mono.
Right.
And in the Mimo software, it basically will just spit out whatever you have. If you have 1 and 2, it spits out like 1 and 2 as stereo, or you can choose 1 or 2, but like not both. And we didn't have enough time for a full dress rehearsal, because if we did, we would have heard it. So I have a fix for it now.
Okay.
I have a fix.
Does that just include your other utility software that you love?
It is including a new piece of software that I found this year called Audio Hijack. We use a piece of software called Loopback. And Loopback, if you don't know it, on a Mac, lets you create all these virtual audio interfaces. And we use that to route a mix of signals around the Mac, bring it into one app, out to another, back, run around. At one point, I was trying to do actually some audio delay with it, and it got really, really funky last time we tried it. So so keeping Loopback.
I thought you were referring to Loopback. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's the same company,
Rogue
Amoeba, makes a program called Audio Hijack. It has all these filters that you can use to process audio, including delay, but it has 50, 60 hertz cut if you're getting ground loop interference. It has channel summing, so it'll take channels, convert them to mono or flip them. Has a lot of tools, and you basically create these pipelines with all these different processes, and you can adjust them all separately, send them back out to different interfaces, and you can run multiple little, I forget what they call them. There's a name for the window that has your process.
It's
the
like conduit.
Yeah, they don't call it channels, but like the path. You can have multiple running, and it doesn't matter. It's great. So I used it to do the audio sync delay for the SRT iPhone send, and I could very easily, because each send, each delay in hijack is basically a second.
So that was our test when we were doing the
Yep,
live
that
hits
was
that we were
success. And I could
using
I could see I could
hijack.
basically throw another one on if I needed 2 seconds, another one for three, and then I could go fractionally. And
Got it.
it's much easier to do it that way, and very, very cool to process. So we could have taken your output, run it
Run it
through
through.
the hijack, monoed
Right.
it, brought it back in, and then sent it out over the HDMI.
That would have been, yeah.
And
Right.
that's what I couldn't in the heat of battle. I couldn't think of how to do it, but that's how we would have done it.
Yeah. It was lava against a paper dam at that
Yeah, yeah.
point.
So that part we need to just pay some attention to. And if we have time and if we want to try the iPhone again next year, we have to have a little more time for a walkthrough and syncing and timing,
Right.
things like that. Let's talk about the C start. The C start
So start
is
in Anchorage.
in
Yep.
Anchorage. Is
Yep.
it's I am in Anchorage for that production,
Yep.
but it is remote. It is remote production because
Essentially, yeah.
we're taking the kits, the live stream kits that go out on the trail. So it's the 350 camera, it's the Iditarod encoder, and
Yep.
it's a Starlink satellite setup. And we put 3 cameras out on the street, spread out, a couple blocks apart. And then we have an iPhone also running using that SRT Larix software. But
Right.
they're all streaming because we don't have a truck. We don't
No
have
satellite. Yep.
we don't have anything on the street to run wires into.
Right.
Right. I'm in a hotel room with broadband internet. So we do that
Yep.
as a remote production.
Right.
And it's really the first test of all that gear with the camera operators. It's really the first time that we're testing the intercom and the
Actual
whole bit,
streaming, the whole thing.
actual
Right.
production. So that worked really well this year.
It did.
We had clean signals, which we didn't have 2 years ago. And I keep forgetting that last year we were in Fairbanks. I was
That
trying
was a
to
huge crutch.
That
Yeah.
was a different Megillah, but 2 years
Right.
ago in Anchorage we had problems with the C start with the
Mm.
satellites. This year the satellites worked much better. And again, thanks to some help from Intinor, the latency
Yes.
on the satellites was very, very low, about 3 seconds or less on
Wow.
Starlinks. Because think about it, if you're directing a live stream and everything you watch is 3 seconds delayed, it's a little
Right.
tricky because I have to, calling cameras, and you guys might have already moved. So
Hand off of something. Yeah.
yeah, so
It
we
becomes a
always,
little bit of ESP at that point.
well, we always try to explain to everybody that I'm a little delayed on it, but it was much better this year because
It was.
last time we tried it, it was more like 6 seconds, which is
Yes.
almost
Yeah.
an eternity. So
And you could live with it this year. You were calling for shots where you'd see something and you'd know that you could hold on to it. And
yeah,
it worked well with everybody listening. It
yeah.
worked really well.
So yeah, and that the audio from that venue comes from the public address announcer. We have a little pre-show with our host Greg and Bruce. We do that just straight into your camera. We're going to bring a mixer next year, so you can do a little headphone mix for them.
Okay.
We're going to bring the 2 headphones in to the microphones and the headphones. We're going to bring them into a little Mackie mixer or something, and I'll
Perfect.
let you basically send a return audio to them so they could hear
Right.
each other and hear them, vice versa.
Yeah, I know if anything, and it was something he just had to get used to. I know Greg wanted to be able to hear himself as well as Bruce. They could hear each other, but not themselves. So I think that would be a small
Yeah,
feature that he'd love to
easy
have.
enough
Yeah.
to do. We just have to
Yep.
again plan it out and make it happen. Okay, let's talk about the restart because the restart really was, I think, our best broadcast this year.
Absolutely.
And
And 24 hours later,
Yeah, 24 hours later.
From
Yeah,
you're in the streets of Anchorage, and then you move everything 2 hours away, and you have to have everything you're taking on the trail for the three camera people that are going out there
you
too.
do. You do.
So it's a lot to happen within that time.
The difference with the restart from the C start is that
Yeah.
we're switching locally. It's not remote production in the sense that I am bringing all the cameras into the Intinor in the venue, and I'm basically cabled everything in hardwired to my system.
Right.
So we're not streaming anything except for
The
the
output.
the output back to the website.
Right.
So all the signals were very clean. But if you, I don't know if you remember because you were outside running around, but as we're
Yeah.
setting up cameras, I kept having these weird connectivity issues where I would lose like the USB keys that I used to switch the cameras. I would
Yeah.
lose that, or I would lose the internet for a minute, or I would lose the Vaxis feed. Like things were dropping out randomly, and I couldn't figure out why. And
Right.
at about 12 minutes before
To show.
show, I said, I can't, it must be the dock. The dock must be failing. And it's one of these. I've got a Cal Digit dock, which works pretty well, TS3, but I have another one called Ivanki. And the name's a little weird. It's an Amazon dock, but it's built like a tank, has more inputs and outputs, and I like it. And it's always worked great, but it was failing for some reason. I don't know why. Still haven't been
Right.
able to troubleshoot it. But I ripped it out at the last minute and went everything straight into the Mac, which was a little challenging, but
Wonky. Yeah.
got it
Yeah. And
done.
for future reference, that I had a similar issue with the Cal Digit dock up in Nome that we need to just think about for next year too. It was
Yeah,
we took a power hit and that threw the Cal Digit offline and everything connected to it and needed to be
yeah,
started up again from the very
yeah.
beginning. But I digress.
You do. So basically, the Intinor in that scenario is basically a large capture card. I
Right.
know that they don't pitch it that way, but basically, I was able to take baseband video out of the Intinor into my deck link, which is
Mm-hmm.
Thunderbolt, into my Mac. And then I was also able to take some of the signals on NDI over the network into my Mac.
Right.
And it's all basically working uh, in real time. There's no latency issues there. There's no problems with sync, and everything looked great. Worked really really well.
Yeah.
Especially the drone. The
Yeah.
drone was you did a great job operating the drone. We had some great. It's a long, basically it's a long lead out to the
Long
trail from the
downhill.
starting line,
Right.
and the drone is just a beautiful, beautiful shot to have. You could track it. We would basically carry the mushers from the chute out with the drone,
Right.
and it was just really, really nice looking production.
Having the ability to do that also alleviated a big headache we had a few years ago where we had to run fiber down all the way to the end of the chute because we wanted to see that look when they get out onto the river or the lake.
Right, right. It
And
did. It
and we
did.
had a little
Yeah,
issue.
it saved us the time and energy of running the fiber out. We had
Right.
2,000 feet of fiber over two different reels, and we could have used it if we needed to. We had it there,
Right.
but we were able to not need the far camera because of the drone, and we were able to bring the second
Covered it.
camera in over the Vaxis, which also
Yes.
would have required a hard wire. And
Right.
that worked really well. And the iPhone worked great on the Wi-Fi with the SRT, and everything
Yeah.
was just really, really nice.
It was a success. Yeah, for sure.
That was a nice production. Then we get to Gnome, and the Gnome this year we had a little extra help for Brandon.
Yep.
And Brandon and Katie were able to basically get most of the pieces set up, or at least
Laid
in
out. Yeah,
position before you
absolutely.
got into town. Because you have to come in straight from the trail.
Right.
And that show is another remote production where we
Mhm.
have the Intinor router. We feed baseband 4 signals into the Intinor. Those get sent to me back in New York, and then I switch the show live here. And we had a couple of problems that we couldn't really foresee. I mean, we could foresee, but really we don't have an option. And there is an option. We didn't have it in place. I think for next year,
There wasn't a fallback, right?
I'll explain what I think we could do next year. But
Okay.
basically, we got blessed with broadband internet just by hook or by crook. We fell into it, and I was able to send 4 streams of baseband video plus 2 streams of IP video,
Yeah.
at 6 megabits each over this pipe back to New York.
Unbelievable.
And the pictures looked so good, and the
Hmm.
latency was reasonable.
Yeah.
But the minute the champ came in, the network, the broadband collapsed. We lost the connection. It just didn't have the throughput. I think it was network throttling, is my guess.
I think so. And you have an unfathomable amount of people around that finish line. And I think there's interference on different frequencies. And that was something that could be troubleshot had we known. No guarantee that it would be solved, but something to think about.
Right. Well, so anyway, that show did not go super smooth.
Yeah,
And but last year the show was great.
it was.
It's just one of those things. I think the way that I would fix it for next year is to have basically Mimo Live set up locally, because I sent up an extra computer this year. We had a Mac Mini that was separate
I
from
know
your
where you're
laptop.
going. Yep.
Set up a Mac Mini with Mimo Live, receiving all those signals locally. Still try to send them to New York if I can,
Yep.
but I could set up the whole show on the Mac Mini, and I could remotely
Locally.
switch it. And so basically, if we lost, the only problem is if we lost the internet completely, we still would be screwed.
Yes.
But
Right.
if we only had enough to send a single stream out, we could kill the ISO sends, all the
Right.
individual camera sends. We could save the bandwidth there, switch it from the Mac Mini, send the final output out on a single stream to the
Yep.
server, and we could try to save it that way.
Right. Right. And hopefully it wouldn't happen again, and we would have a little more troubleshoot time. And luckily we did have the drone this year. It didn't show you as much that you really wanted to see in a finish show for the Iditarod winner.
But
So yeah.
it still has it. Like, the drone is a game changer. The drone will
Hmm.
be in all the productions going forward. It's really a game changer for covering the event, on
Right.
many ways. But it's
Yeah.
been great for that. Um, Anything that you want to add to this document for future Tom to remember?
I think one thing, and if we're going to get into the gnome musher banquet at all, is what would the possibility of using the two SDI small cameras for the Thursday banquet look like? Um, Having that ability to get a shot from the podium, whether it's of the crowd or the mushers coming up to pick their jersey numbers, their bib numbers. I mean, um, having an extra shot like that
Oh, you
might
mean
be something to consider.
put the two POVs the way we do
Hmm.
in the finisher banquet up on the podium, and
Yeah,
then use the two back cameras for something else, basically,
right.
other shots. Yeah, it's a good idea. We have the stuff, so
Possible. Right.
the only thing is that we'd have to cable that,
Yeah, that's true.
and we'd have to,
And
which
their
is fine.
SDI.
We'd have to run the
Yep.
fiber, but we could do it, and it probably would be. That's a good point.
Something to think about when we have
Yeah,
no time to do other stuff.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Anything else that future Tom needs to know?
I don't think so. I mean, everything did go pretty well at the Musher banquet. We added a fourth camera to our coverage there. Fifth camera, actually. We had one back of room. We had one up high. We had the handheld camera for the 4x key test, and then we had the two cameras up there. So I think the banquet was really well covered.
It
and
was
we didn't.
the only thing that spoiled the banquet was that we lost internet two or three times towards the end
Uh,
of the banquet, and people were upset because they couldn't see. You know, we had the bandwidth went from
the final stories.
25
Yeah.
megabits to 5 kilobits. It was just
Uh, got it.
decimated. So we need to probably have some redundancy there for internet, maybe Starlink in addition to the cable modem,
Right.
and
I
we
will
could.
tell you that there were a bunch of boxes there in the back that weren't being used. So I don't know how that could be provisioned to give you that kind of redundancy, but there were plenty in that
Right.
back room.
Well, I think what I would do next year is I would send up a different router.
Mhm.
Right now we're using like this like Netgear Nighthawk, which is a basic router
Yep.
to do internet routing, but I think I would send up something with dual WAN ports. So
Okay.
it could basically blend two ports together. And if we lost one, it would have a fallback to the
Got it.
other. And it would be seamless,
Instantaneous. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay. Once again.
Yeah. So that's something I'll look into as far as that goes. The other little note I would make is that I tried to have spares of more parts this time, and I bought
Yep.
on eBay some power supplies for the CX350 cameras just because in the field they go to crap so easily, especially with brittle
Right.
cables. I don't know why, but with the ones that I bought from eBay from China, they introduced a 50 cycle hum in the audio when the microphone was plugged in.
Not all of them. Only you had two different brands of them that were off brand, and one of
No,
them did
no,
that.
no. I had one brand from China and they all did it. The Lens Pro to Go, who supplied the rental gear, gave us extras as well. Their model worked.
That was off brand.
Yeah, it was off brand, but
Ah,
it was a better off brand.
got it.
So while it powers the camera and it charges the batteries just fine,
Yeah.
there's something in the electronics that is not good.
Something
So
wasn't grounded. Yeah.
yeah,
Interesting.
so either we need like maybe some ground lifts or something to
Right.
to fix that part. But overall, I think everything went very well. I wouldn't be able to do it without your help at all.
Well, no, thank
I
you.
would like if I didn't have you to do this job with me, I wouldn't do the job. So
Well, same here. I love
I,
doing it,
I
and I love how you still confound me every year with new stuff that you find, and it's exhilarating because it's so cool learning how to do things differently, and so it's always a technical adventure.
all right. Well, that's going to wrap up this workflow Wednesday. I'll put the email at the end of the video. If you have some comments or questions, feel free to drop it in the comments or email us, and we'll see you next time.
Sounds good. Thanks, Art.